There is the case where there being equanimity as a factor for awakening present within. It discerns that equanimity as a factor for awakening is present within me. Or there being no equanimity as a factor for awakening is present within, discerns that equanimity as a factor for awakening is not present within me. He discerns how there is the arising of unarisen equanimity as a factor for awakening, and he discerns how there is the culmination of the development of equanimity as a factor for awakening once it has arisen. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So this is the same paragraph that we considered even in the last meeting. And as you have heard, in many places I have been mentioning factor for awakening or factors for awakening. So in other words, we are discussing the main ingredients that are necessary for the final enlightenment. So how have we come here? Is through observing, being aware of our physical process and mental process at two different levels. One is the gross level, where we initially be aware of our body, and then the mind components such as feelings and the mind itself, and then we have taken clinging aggregates and the relationship between internal faculties and external objects. And we have discussed how in a subtle way these things are working. So I'm not going to go much into detail. It's just a signpost to say how we have come here. That is by simply going through the gross physical process and subtle physical process, gross mental process and subtle mental process. And at the end, in the four foundations of mindfulness discourse, which we are still discussing, the Blessed One says, once you have done that, you gain factors for enlightenment. And there are 7 factors for enlightenment. And the important thing is, in this discourse, as I have been reminding in the previous sessions, Blessed One is not explaining or introducing the 7 factors for enlightenment. What he does is, he's showing their nature. So as you have just heard, so far as equanimity is concerned, the Blessed One is saying, when it is there, you are aware. When it is not there, you are aware. And when unarisen equanimity is arising, you know it is arising. And also when it comes to, once it has arisen, when it comes to culmination and develop, you are aware that as well. So simply, what he says is, even the 7 factors for enlightenment is not made of concrete, is not made of something not fragile. Even that is changing. So once you have gone through the gross and subtle physical and mental process, you are now ready to see that very same thing that you have developed is going for a 6, is going down the drain. So your mind is prepared to accept it. Mind is prepared to receive it. So this is why at this stage, I'm saying he's not introducing the 7 factors of enlightenment, but he's simply showing the nature of the 7 factors of enlightenment. All right. So with that gentle reminder, before being aware the nature of law in relation to even the 7 factors of enlightenment, what we should know what they are. So most of the time we have spent in the last few sessions, 15-20 sessions if I'm not wrong, we have tried to understand what these 7 factors of enlightenment are. So if I just give a brief summary of the 7 factors of enlightenment, the 7 factors are the mindfulness as a factor for awakening or enlightenment, investigation of states, energy, rapture, tranquility, or serenity, you call it, concentration, and the last one is equanimity, or we call it upekha sambojjhanga. So mindfulness is the starting point of this 7 factors of enlightenment. So when you have the mindfulness as a factor for enlightenment, from that, everything starts flowing down. It has a direct relationship, linear relationship to the first factor for mindfulness. So the same thing is changing its face down the drain when it goes down the line, right? So when you have mindfulness as a factor for awakening, you call it, you have asammoha sati. Asammoha sati means you have firm mindfulness. It is not wavering mindfulness. You call it unremitting mindfulness. So when you have unremitting mindfulness, no matter what the object is that you can be mindful of, you just be aware. When you are not shaking, when the object is changing, due to that unremitting nature, your mind becomes subtler, and you will be able to see more things, see the details of the object, see things that you have not seen, right? I will just give a simple example. When you observe your breath, and if you are, when the breath starts getting shorter, and if you are not panicking, then it will become even shorter. It will go to the subtlest. And once it is at the subtlest, and if you are still having a firm observation nature only, then it comes to a point that you don't feel even the breath. So this is just a simple example. And with that, your attention will come to the body. Once it comes to the body, it's completely a different ballgame, right? Your body is behaving in funny ways, or what I'm saying is the ways that you may not have seen or experienced in the past. And that is called the investigation. So irrespective of whether it's physical process or the mental process, you are seeing things that you are not experienced in the past. So you just let it happen and examine what happens. Not that you physically do it, not that you intentionally do it. You let it happen and you just keep following it. And that is, in English, it is translated as examines, analyzes, and come to comprehension. It does not mean that you will have to do something. Because of your unremitting mindfulness, it happens. And for you to do that, investigations to take place, you must have a well-balanced energy, right? If you don't have energy, not to be panicked, not to get alarmed, then you will not be able to come to that investigation state. So if you have the reason or the fact that you have come to that energy or investigation state, means that you have provided the right energy required, right? So when you, the reason why you have provided right energy is because you are now enjoying what is happening, right? So in other words, you have some excitement to what is going on, right? And that is when the energy factor is has come to its climax, you can start experiencing that rapture, that excitement within you. So you call it rapture as a factor for enlightenment. And what the discourse says is, it's unworldly rapture. It's not the rapture that you will have when you're about to go on a picnic or go abroad or meet your boyfriend or girlfriend, something. But it's an unworldly rapture, right? Which is beyond your 6 organs or 6 faculties, right? So once, when this rapture is happening, what in the background has happened is your mind has become sharper. Your mind has stayed calm. Your mind has been relaxing, right? So this relaxing mind now comes to the surface when it understands that this rapturous situation is creating or giving conditions for the body and the mind to become tranquil, right? So you try to see this sharpness of the mind in the form of relaxation or in the form of calmness. So when this calmness appears, it is considered as the tranquility or the serenity as a factor for enlightenment. And then when you have this concentration, this is a place where you have got to be very careful. Now you have come to a very important juncture in the spiritual journey. In this juncture, by this time, there must have had some behavioral changes, right? Behavioral changes that you can control. Say, for example, you must be associating more with those who will be able to help you in the process or appreciate what you are doing, right? And you must have, or not that you must have, it would be beneficial for you to have, for you to select what is right and what is wrong. Say, for example, if you are still clubbing, if you are still drinking and taking drugs and things like that, then they might not be compatible with this upliftment of your spirituality, right? So these are things that you can control, not anybody else. Becoming or selecting what is good, what is bad is very, very, very visible now, very clear now to you. You know that the mind is the main thing and it has taken you for such a long way. So I should change myself and give my mind a chance, right? So you should have selected the right friends and right behavior, and you should be able to, or you should be ready to live a simple life. You should be ready to take any challenges that comes your way, and you are not running away from anything because you can see things very clearly. So to help that, when you are concentrated, to help that, this last one, the equanimity, will be very important, right? Now, equanimity means mind thus concentrated becomes well indifferent, right? So when the mind is concentrated, when these external factors are supporting, you become indifferent, right? The concentrated mind means a mind where you have observed the calm body as well as the calm mind. And this calm body and calm mind makes you, or lets you be with the object irrespective of what happens, no matter what happens, right? So at this stage, when I say no matter what happens, what I mean is this concentrated mind is able to see highly intensified physical process. This concentrated mind is able to see highly intensified mental process. And intensification of mental process is much higher compared to the intensification of the physical process. So therefore, this is a very fragile state. When you are concentrated, and you may think it would have been better if I had not meditated, because you are seeing things so vividly, so clearly, and all what you see are not pleasant. All what you see may be for you sometimes nihilistic or maybe negative, right? That is because we are concentrated but not balanced yet. Still, you are being affected by the waves going on the two sides, right? So the equanimity brings that balance, right? How that brings is, it says the mind thus concentrated becomes well indifferent. What you do is you keep on doing the same thing, having the mindfulness as the driver. Whatever, no matter what happens, all what you do is just become aware of it. Just become aware of it. When your awareness continues in that manner, mind becomes well indifferent. You don't bother what happens. So when mind thus concentrated becomes well indifferent, equanimity as a factor for awakening is aroused in him. So that is what is mentioned in the discourse, how it arises. And in the last meeting we discussed, when that indifferent mind, in other words, when you continue your practice, there is nothing for you to do to create this indifferent mind, right? If you, no matter what happens, no matter how intensified your physical process and mental process seems to be, you just continue your practice as usual. 1 hour walking, 1 hour sitting, or whatever the period you are taking, you continue to do it. And then what you simply say is, I don't bother what's going on, I'm just continuing my thing. And therefore you introduce an attitude to the mind not to fight, irrespective of the change conditions, right? So that we call it arana patipada, or in other words, peaceful mode of conduct. Or we learned another one, friendly mode of conduct. We call it aviruddha patipada. So we learn a new art of not reacting, not fighting. And it was there even when you started the mindfulness on the very first day of your practice. Now only it is coming to its climax. Now you, because you have continued for such a long time, you see things so vividly, and now you have the ability not to react, but just to keep observing with a smile on your face. Sometimes this intensified happening may frighten you, right? And that is coming up because you are ready to face it. Not that you have done it in a wrong way. You see that as something threatening because you are ready to see it. You have gone through the preparation already, right? So we have discussed that initial introduction of equanimity in that manner, and we discussed how a tortoise will pull its leg inside when there is a threat to him in the jungle. And we have taken the simile of how a feather retrieves back when you take it to fire. The feather doesn't jump, but instead it comes back. So like that, when you are concentrated and when your equanimity is developing, you don't look for trouble. You simply, when the mind is giving so many suggestions, so many thoughts, so many proposals, you just be aware of it. And if you are able to see it at the earliest possible, you just know, now this particular thought is going to take me in this path. This particular thought is going to take me in this path. As soon as you are aware, you will not panic or you will not go with the thought as such. So we have discussed how the ascetic Bahya Daruchirya took that equanimity factor or equanimity sense in the phrase called, in the scene there will be mere seeing, and in the heard will be mere hearing, and in the sense will be mere sensing, in the cognize will be mere cognizing. And then how he became an arahant when the Buddha was coming back from his alms round. So that was the summary of what we have discussed so far as 7 factors of enlightenment is concerned. Today, we are going to continue the same thing. This intensification of, I have the sharp mind. So what if not concentrated is a fair question for someone to ask, because you are not, when you are concentrated, you are not affected by sensuality, right? Because you are able to at least take few hours and then do your practice. And taking few hours from lay life means you have the ability to come out of the sensuality, not to be with the TV all the time, or the computer with the computer all the time, or mobile phone all the time. You have some ability to come out of the sensuality, and not only just come out of the sensuality. And when you are concentrated, you are able to be with your object, right? Maybe breathing, or maybe walking, or maybe something else. When you observe your breath, and it may come to a situation where there is no breath, but still you are able to observe, and you will not have any object, but still your concentration or the awareness will continue. So when that happens, not only sensuality, you don't have even the sense desire. Even the shades of sensuality will not be there, because you are more with the object or the absence of the object. So it may be with the object, which is a material thing, material sphere we call it, and maybe the absence of object, and that is when you are concentrated, so you are not affected by any of those things. When you are not affected by any of those things, when your mind is so powerful, and as I said, when it is going through this intensified physical and mental processes, there is a possibility that you may be attracted to the psychic powers. You may have, or you may get the opportunity to have some powers that ordinary people in the lay life, and ordinary people in the club, ordinary people in the restaurant, ordinary people at home will not be able to see. And some people may be able to see past lives, and some people may have the ability to do future predictions, and some people may have the healing powers. Some people may have the ability to tell fortune, what is happening, right? So these are very popular in the Buddhist world, and why most of them practice is to gain these things. And in fact, to tell you the truth, about 25 years ago, I was reading a book which my mother gave, and that book had given so much of psychic powers that one of the monks called Balangoda Ananda Maitri had during his life. So I was really attracted by that, and I started practicing meditation because of that book. Then I thought, okay, this is cool thing, so I should also develop my mind and try to get this thing. But fortunately, I was not get trapped into that. I met the right teachers, and what Buddha says is, if your concentration is high, you may get into this, these things, right? We call it net of Brahmas. Brahma means a type of beings. It's a realm of existence who have developed their mind. So if you develop your mind to very high level, and once you pass away, and if the right conditions are there, you may be reborn in that realm, right? And in that realm is beyond materiality. They don't depend on earth, fire, water, and what's the other one? Air element, right? It is mainly immaterial sphere. You call non-material sphere. So this mainly happens if you simply practice taking an object to get concentrated. If you carry out your practice, if you continue your practice with the awareness in the driving seat, it is very unlikely that you will go into that realm, because your practice is to come out of all these things, right? So what I want to simply tell is, Brahmajala or Brahmanet means, now since your mind is developed to go beyond materiality, since your mind is highly concentrated, here itself you have the ability to get those powers, right? So there have been instances, I mean, especially in Sri Lanka, there are people, if you take YouTube, if you take newspapers, there are people who are healing others with these powers. There are people giving so much of political predictions and fortune telling, depending on their development of the mind. But very clearly, they are not in Buddha's path. In Buddha's path, what he says is, when you come to that concentrated level, you must develop equanimity. You must be aware of whatever is going on so that you will not get trapped. The reason why Buddha says is, now, in fact, there have been a lot of arguments with my other groups, because they say, if somebody is having this ability to cure someone, what is wrong in doing that? And it's a fair argument as well. What is wrong in doing that is because the Blessed One is trying to give the answer to the biggest question we have. The biggest question we have is that we die. Falling sick is even before that. So when you look for that answer for that question, where there is a place that there is no death, you cannot stop at a station before that final junction. So these people who are really doing this healing, they have gone out of Buddha's path, and they are not trying to get rid of death or find an answer to see whether they are able to stop death. Instead, they have taken some other road. So therefore, there is a possibility that your mind get dragged onto those things. And also there is someone in Melbourne in our group, and she has been practicing for some time, and she is having the ability to do the same thing, hold someone's hand and give some medications and tell what is going on in some other place of some of the relatives of the person she is trying to treat. So these are very clearly going out of the Buddha's path. And how you avoid this happening is, because you may see in practice when those abilities are coming up, simply be aware. Simply be aware. When you practice, you may feel that you exist in a different place that you have never been in the past, right? So some people start enjoying those things. Some people will start entertaining those things. If you entertain those things, those appearances will intensify, and you may get bogged down in it, right? So therefore, when those things appear, most important thing is just start being aware, being mindful, start labeling, so that although it appears, you don't chase it away, and you will not start entertaining that as well, so that you will be able to go through it, right? So you will not stop any station before the final destination. So therefore, in one of the discourses, Blessed One has blasted one of the Arahants. That Arahant has used his psychic powers to show his ability one day when he was coming from his Armstrong, and it has gone to Buddha. Buddha has come to know what has happened, and he has blasted this Arahant. And my teaching is to not to show off. You cannot show any of the psychic powers that you may have. If you can show off anything, that is only the ability for you to preach, ability for you to teach others. That's the only thing that you can exercise. No other psychic power should be exercised, because my teaching is not to show psychic power. And there are so many people doing it, and they are worthless. And once, when Buddha was going on Armstrong, he had to cross a river. And he was waiting for the ferry to come to cross the river. And there was another person, another ascetic, came to the, port. And then he has not waited for the ferry. He has just walked on the water. And Buddha's assistant has said, Bhante, why don't you do the same thing? And you have much higher powers than him. Then the Blessed One has said, this cost only, say, for example, in today's terms, this cost only $2. To cross the ferry, only $2. So what he did was only worth $2. So therefore, I'm not going to show my things or show my abilities just for $2, right? So this is why he says psychic powers are worthless. So therefore, since he has been looking for the biggest problem in the universe, which is death, anything that one does with psychic powers are temporary, and those things will never stop death. So we have a responsibility to stick to exact word of the Buddha. Therefore, equanimity as a factor for enlightenment is essential when one is in concentration. Concentration is very powerful human potential. Unless it is very carefully managed, one won't follow the footsteps of the Buddha. And there have been people who have been practicing and who have been meditating before Buddha. They have had all these powers, but none of them were able to stop the death, stop the continuing birth and death cycle. So to follow the Buddha, one will have to ensure that mindfulness is in the driving seat. Keep the mindfulness to the fore. If you keep the mindfulness to the fore, then nobody will be able to get you hooked onto anything. Mindfulness is simply awareness. Awareness means you neither like anything or dislike. Simply be aware. Choiceless awareness. Suspended decision. Non-judgmental awareness. Right? So it's very easy to say, but may be difficult to do because of our attachments and attractions we have to many things, but very much possible human potential. And it can only be done by a human, and other people, other animals are not in a position to do it. So as we have been discussing for the other enlightenment factors, even for this one, even for equanimity, there are some nutriments, there are some feeding we can do to improve it. And the discourse that explains those nutriments are called Aharatikaya Sutta, or you call it food discourse, or in some translations they call it nutriments discourse as well. So the nutriments for equanimity as a factor of enlightenment, the Pali term is Upekka Sambojjangattaniya Dhamma, right? Upekka Sambojjangattaniya Dhamma means it's a culmination of three words. One is Upekka, which is equanimity. Sambojjanga means factors for enlightenment, and Dhamma means the reasons or the natures, right? So it doesn't mean anything to us, and it is just the only thing that is given on the discourse. But in commentaries, and they have given some details about it. They have tried to give some details about it, and they have given one is, I will just first say the Pali terms they have given. The first one they say Satta Majjatata, and the second one is Sankara Vastu Samata, Kalyan Kelayana Puggalo, and Akelayana Puggalo, which means first one, Satta Majjatata means you learn the equal treatment to living beings, right? And if you generate equal treatment to living beings, that creates some nutriments for the developing equanimity. And the other thing is Sankara Vastu Samatava means indifferent about the possessions you have. I have this, I have that, I have the other one, and all that. And you may talk high, or you may feel high, or you may start comparing with others, maybe actively or maybe passively, right? And when you become concentrated, and when you become mindful, and when you develop your equanimity, you don't give much importance, significance for those things. You become indifferent. Oh, whether I have a small car or whether I go in a BMW 7-seater, doesn't matter. I go on the same road, I go to the same destination. So you develop that mentality without a burden on yourself. It's very difficult when you are able to do something not to do it. Okay, I can go for a very luxurious house, but I'm living in 2-bed apartment. At the end of the day, what I do is I eat and sleep. So why I need so much? And you do that, not just pressurizing you. You do it happily. You do it with a smile. So that is called Sankara Vastu Samatava. We'll go into detail of these things a little later. I'm just giving you a simple meaning of them. And the other one is Kelayana Puggalo. Kelayana Puggalo means keep away from extremists. Kelayana Puggalo means extremist, right? And for you to be equanimous, you will have to definitely be away from extremes, right? If you're on one extreme, you cannot be equanimous, right? So it is very difficult. That's not a bomb, that's a monkey. Did you hear that sound? Yeah, that's okay, that's okay. And the other thing is Akelayana Puggalo, association of non-extremes. So it's just the opposite of the other one. So if you go a bit into detail of these 4 things that will provide you, or that will help you to improve your equanimity. First one, Satta Majjatata. There are many ways that you can do it. One is expressing loving kindness. You know, we call it in Pali Maitri or Maitriya. So in loving kindness, what happens is this happens when you practice, since you observe all the precepts and emit non-reactional energy, right? So when you practice your mindfulness, right, during that period, what you do is you don't kill any animal, you don't steal anything, you don't engage in sexual misconduct, you don't lie, or you don't talk any bad words, and you don't take any intoxication. So you're observing all your precepts, right? So that time you observe all your precepts, what you are simply emitting to the world is harmony. You are emitting to the world is peace. Maybe internally you may have some turmoil because of the shades of those things, shades of sense pleasure, but still you are not actively either doing anything physically or doing anything verbally. And that helps you to emit a lot of non-reactional energy, which is positive. Non-reactional energy is only providing the loving kindness to the society. And some people do it actively. They say, may all beings be happy, well, and peaceful. That is just by word of mouth. It is not from the bottom of your heart. It comes from the heart only when you stop your physical and verbal activity. When you stop your physical and verbal activities, mind is activated, right? So therefore, loving kindness happens in that way. And the other one is karuna, or we call it kindness. Kindness means you become more sensitive to the sufferings or worries of others. If someone is in trouble, you feel the same pain. That is because you are very sensitive now, because of your practice. And these things are there even without the practice. But the funny thing is, these good qualities of people are being marketed today by UNICEF and that CEF and this CEF. They grab people's money and they create same mess somewhere else. So I'm not going to go into detail of those things here. So these good qualities are being exploited in the present day world by the commercial world and by the international so-called I don't get the word. What's that word? No, never mind. It doesn't come. And the other thing is sympathetic joy. We call it mudita. Sympathetic joy means rejoice with others' happiness. And if someone passes an exam, you are really happy. If he buys another vehicle, you become really happy. If he buys another property, you become really happy. It is very difficult for human beings to do that. Oh, he's having that, he's getting this, and he's getting all that, and I don't get, and that's the feeling that we usually get. But if you can rejoice genuinely with the success and happiness of other people, then you call it mudita. And these are three ways in which you can exercise the friendliness or satta majjatata, which is equal treatment for living beings. And these three things are also called the sublime states of mind. If you have loving kindness, if you have kindness, if you have sympathetic joy, they call sublime states of mind, and that happens. That happens when you come to that stage of concentration, where you go beyond matter. When you are in immaterial observation, immaterial realm, when you don't feel your breath anymore, you are almost entering into that sphere. In that sphere, that is what you have. Your sublime states of mind, which is this sympathetic joy, kindness, and loving kindness. But these things may be not 100% spiritual. From the point of view of mindfulness, they may be deceptive and may generate defilements or the poison. It may be poisonous, right? Say, for example, lust may appear as sublime states. Say, for example, you feel a lot of sympathy, sympathetic joy towards someone in the opposite sex. Whether you really do it because of your sympathetic joy or whether you have some other attraction, we don't know until some time goes. So it may be deceptive. You may be doing it because of lust, or it may suppress hatred. You may be expressing loving kindness to somebody just because you can't hate him. just because you can't blast him, right? And therefore you just express loving kindness. The good example will be, say for example, when you are practicing, someone will make a noise and you get wild in your mind. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm getting angry. And you will start saying, may he be happy, well, and peaceful. May he be happy, well, and peaceful. You may generate loving kindness thoughts towards him. What does it do is you're suppressing the hatred that you have towards him because of that particular noise he created when you are practicing, right? So therefore, there may have some deceptive, hidden poison in these sublime states of mind. And therefore, this equanimity is a state where you have neither positive nor negative. When you come to Sakta Majjatata, or equal treatment for beings, this equanimity is the best, rather than using the other three. So this is best equal treatment for living creatures. This is the best treatment for yourself as well, because there is nothing for you to do. You just accept whatever is there. By accepting, maybe because of the noise you are angry, and you accept that you are angry. When you accept that you are angry, first you control yourself. First you manage yourself. When you manage yourself, the subsiding of anger will naturally emit loving kindness to the environment, loving kindness to the surroundings. So therefore, it is better for both the parties being neither positive nor negative. And this is how the possession or the karma depreciates. Karma is a cycle of existence. Karma happens when you do something intentional. So if you, when something that you like will happen, you want to repeat it, right? So that is karma. And when something that you don't like happens, you try to stop it. That is also karma. It's a reaction. In equanimity, what you do is, no matter what, you observe, and as a result, this you don't provide any fertilizer to the causation to happen, and then the causation will depreciate. So it's better your practice gets harder and challenges demanding equanimity. So if I put it this way, when you want to develop your equanimity and when you are practicing, you are getting more and more challenges. Maybe at workplace, maybe at home, maybe with your friends, and maybe in your practice itself, a lot of challenges will come. And why those challenges come means, number one, that it is a reason that your karma is depreciating and the hidden karmas are coming up. And the other reason is, it is testing you. It is testing you whether you are able to face the challenges that are coming your way. So, and it is testing your ability to be equanimous. So these challenges are mostly from those who are close to you. Maybe the your close friends, close family members, and friends in Dhamma, because you don't expect anything bad or anything you don't like from them. But the very same thing will happen from them. It happens just to see whether you are ready to be equanimous. So therefore, that test your Sakta Majjatata, equal treatment of being. And that helps in developing one's equanimity as a factor for awakening. So the Buddha perfected that equanimity in his past life. And in one of the lives, he was born as Dharmapala. And it's a small story. Let me quickly tell you that. When he was born, when he was about 7 months old, he was born to a king. 7 months old, that king was very he's addicted to alcohol. He's an alcoholic, and one day after the birth of the prince, he went out, and when he came back, he was so drunk, and then he has gone to see the queen, and queen has not cared much about the arrival of the king. He has been looking after the baby and nursing the baby, and king has been really angry, and you don't believe, he has ordered the termination of the child. He has asked the soldiers just to kill him because the queen was not attracted to him. Then after becoming Buddha, he remembers this story, and he tells his disciple, that day I did not have any anger towards my father. I did not have any love towards my mother. I did not have any anger towards the person who was killing me. I did not have any bad thoughts against the people who were looking. And to that extent, he has developed equanimity even in the previous lives. And that is how he perfected this equanimity to become a Buddha. Right? So therefore, Sakta Majjatata, or the equal treatment for being, is a very conducive factor to develop equanimity as a factor for mindfulness. So I hope this may have given some insight into how you can generate, how you can develop, how you can cultivate equanimity in your practice, or how you can support to develop equanimity in your practice. There is nothing for you to do intentionally as such, and it is something that is happening naturally, provided you keep your mindfulness to the fore. So we will take the other three nutriments in the next session. So may you all be happy, well, and peaceful. Blessings of the Noble Triple Way. Peruan Saranai. So with that, we can go for the discussion session if you have anything to discuss.
Yes, so I would like to have your reaction to an observation of mine, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So
it is. Can you come a bit closer, Zach?
Yes. Yeah. So I found out about Buddhism, and it really helped me a lot around about 7 years ago, something like that. And then, of course, recently, I've been slightly more involved in Buddhism because I've intensified my practice.
Yeah, just give me a second. It's heavily raining here. Can't hear that. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So, shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So over the years, and of course, certainly recently in a more intensive way, I've started to notice the qualities of Buddhism. And the observation that I've made that I would like you to comment on is that Buddhism seems to me quite remarkably peaceful. So there's an absolutely incredible sense of peace that comes with the practice of Buddhism. But then the joyfulness is quite confusing to me. While I'm in my practice, I do indeed experience joy or bliss, but it's a very peaceful sense of joy. And what I've noticed that I'd like you to comment on is that there doesn't seem to be much rapturous joy in Buddhism. There doesn't seem to be, I mean, there's lots of the Buddha sitting under the tree being happy and peaceful and content, but there doesn't seem to be much rapturous celebration and joy and dancing and singing. So, you know, please comment.
All right. That is natural, since you have been in our sessions, most of the sessions in the past couple of months. You may have observed the practice is taking you to this rapturous situation because you conserve your energy, right? In the sense, if you follow Buddha's path, or if you say, for example, simply practice, then you what happens is you don't rely on your sense faculties to keep you happy, right? You come out of your sense faculties, not only just the sense faculties, even the sense objects, you come out and you try to be with yourself. So your mind is now with your physical process. When your mind is with your physical process, you are with yourself. Otherwise, in the sensual world, what happens is our mind is with the sense objects, right? Maybe whatever you see, maybe whatever you hear, maybe whatever you taste, and they are with the sense objects and not with you. So therefore, part of your existence, which is the mental process, is outside and physical process is here. But in practice, what happens is when you take that mental component, mental process to your body, you meet your best friend. You meet that missing link. You meet that missing part of the machine, right? So then the machine starts working very efficiently, very in an optimal manner. So when that happens, your mind is having less work to do. That is just to observe your physical process. The mind mind does not require to jump from sound to the sights, to the taste, to the smells, to the tactile sensations, etc. Mind is having just one thing, that is just to observe the body. And the mind is also at ease now. Mind is also relaxing. So when the mind is relaxing, when it is with the body, naturally you become rapturous. And that rapturous situation, or for you to see that it is rapture, you should have some wholesome qualities in you. If you don't have wholesome qualities in you, you can't see that rapture just because the mind comes to the body. So this is the difference between mental illness and Buddha's path. When someone is having a mental illness, what happens there is he gets disconnected from the rest of the world. When he gets disconnected from the rest of the world, his mind comes to the body. And he is unable to observe that, physical process that he sees. And he goes and sees the doctor and gives some pill. And he disconnects that connection or cognition, right? But here, in Buddha's path, you have brought your mind to the body and you see how the physical process is taking place. You simply observe and you enjoy it. You enjoy it because you are making your mind peaceful now. You are conserving your energy, and you are enjoying the conservation of energy.
So is it like this? Outside of Buddhism, people might have a celebration, you know, a party, and they might experience joy by, you know, the sensory ways of, you know, having a drink of wine and dancing and music, and the celebration of sort of being on earth. But then perhaps the reason why Kat and also the Dalai Lama and other people who've practiced Buddhism for a long time, they seem to just always be laughing, like a lot. It just seems like people who practice Buddhism a lot just like laugh all the time, as if every single moment's a party.
Sorry, I didn't get the last part.
It seems to me that in Buddhism, every moment is a party.
It is every moment is a party.
Every moment is a celebration.
It's a celebration, and that's a term used to describe Buddha as well. When we worship Buddha, there is a word that explains that nature. We call it Sugata. Sugata means he walks on this path with a smile on the face. He's not showing it as a struggle because he enjoys being relaxed.
But it's not as exciting, like just to walk on a path, having a constant party. It's much more exciting to like cry and be miserable and then get over it, and then like dance loads and be all chaotic and then like cry again. Like we're just like walking constantly with it. I mean, it's much nicer, I suppose. I don't know. It just seems that the joy that you experience through sensory things is quite wonderful.
Yes, let me put it this way. When you are mindful, your sensitivity becomes higher. When your sensitivity is higher, even the dry slice of bread that you eat, you will feel it with the higher sensitivity. So you will start enjoying things more than before. That's a simple difference, right? It's because you are able to see things at mental level, at a deeper layer. So it's not that the things have changed, not that the world has changed, but we are able to now perceive deeper layers of the mind, so we can be at ease. And this is where the Western world is using mindfulness to increase efficiency. So when you are happy, your productivity is so high, right? So this is an output that you get in the short to medium term. In the short to medium term, you become so rapturous, you become so happy, you become so clear, you become so innovative. So your production goes through the roof. I remember when I was working, they had given me some work that one person cannot handle. So I just did. I go to the office and turn my computer on and say working for 5 minutes. I get onto the mood, just keep working. After 2.5 years, they said, we had given you more work that you can do, but you did them very well without any problem. I didn't know. So that is simply because now I attribute it to mindfulness, because when we do things, we fight with ourselves rather than doing it. You think over it. You waste your energy in thinking and rejecting it. Instead, you get it and do, you save a lot of time and a lot of energy. So the simple answer is, since you are mindful, your sensitivity threshold is very high. So you start enjoying everything.
So then
at the same time, because of your sensitivity level is high, It can go the other way around as well. If you put it in the right way, if you put it in the wrong way. Does it
So
make sense?
it becomes easier to have fun.
To have
Fun.
yes, yes. But the thing is this: when you practice, you should not use this to have fun. This is very important. You know, this heightened level of sensitivity should drive you towards more spirituality than sensual entertainment. If you use this for sensual entertainment, you are taking the wrong medication or wrong tool to do it, because mindfulness is one of the highest, strongest mental quality in the universe, and that is there to answer the question, why do we die? And we use that to increase productivity. We use that to increase our memory capacity. We use that to alleviate mental disease. Then it is creating a lot of other problems. It is like, you know, the main power, you take the main power line and plug it into your fridge and burn the whole house. So therefore, that spiritual quality that is generated through mindfulness should be used to continue in the spiritual path. It does not mean that you come out of your lay life, but your lay life should be a purified one, right? So at least keep your 5 precepts. Maintaining 5 precepts is extremely important, and have a simple life and be happy with little things. So those things will help you to improve that increasing sensitivity.
Thank you.
No worries, my pleasure.
I was going to make a comment on this, the next question. Because he talked about like dancing up and down for happiness.
Sorry, Choristatu, I can't hear.
So Zach was talking about like jumping up and down and like having like a party for happiness versus like being, you know, still and being happy. So I was going to give a comment on it, just from my own experience. Like I found in the past, before I did mindfulness, so I did whatever these activities that were, I would call fun, and I'd be very happy doing that. And then I did mindfulness, and then I found that those activities, although they were fun, they came at a high cost. The cost being that you had to keep doing them, and the happiness you get is a high hit, short lasting. And then there was other happiness available, spiritual happiness, I'll call it, which doesn't have this high hit. It's more long lasting and subtle. And then I found that was better. Like I find that happiness was far superior than the short happiness you get from a sensual object. And the other part was the sensual happiness is dependent on an object, and then spiritual happiness can be dependent on no object. So that's available anywhere, anytime. So, yeah, that's my comment.
Yeah, and go back to that. When your sensitivity increases, if you can enjoy your lay life at a higher level, that happens, as I said, in the short to medium term. But at the same time, you start seeing the friction in it, in the sensual world, right? So you will incline more towards the spiritual happiness, as he mentioned, because you have this heightened sensitivity because you have given up something. So mind is now ready to give up things, and you understand that more you give up, higher the happiness is.
Yeah, that's so strange, isn't it? Like the more simple you become and the more things you give up, the happier you are. Like I always thought it was completely the opposite. I always thought like the more delicious food I eat and the more fun things I do, the happier. It's very interesting. It's like completely the opposite to what I thought.
Yeah, it is because our mind is always looking pleasure in materiality.
Yeah, I'm always doing that.
Yeah, we don't see, I know, we don't see pleasure itself is a mental quality. Pleasure is not in that thing that you eat or wear or see. Pleasure is in the mind. So you will have to get there and eliminate the base of where the pleasure is coming from, so that you can see the pleasure that the mind itself is having. All right. Anything else? And some of the things that you guys said, I could not hear well because of the rain. So, Krish, do we have an agreement?
When I was walking, I was struggling with my thoughts, but I focused on my breath, so feeling the coolness as it went in and the warmth as it came out. But and then to help focus, counting my breaths, but I'd only get up to like 10 and my mind would pop off somewhere else. So then I started doing that in conjunction with having a heightened awareness of my placement of my feet and what I was feeling there. And that was going okay for a bit. Then my knees started making a cracking noise and that distracted me. So still lots of distractions, but I actually found that the 45-minute finished concluded a lot quicker than I hadn't had any awareness of time while I was doing that.
Right. Yeah. Did you say you're observing breath while walking?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is it because your mind is wandering to thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah. What we can do is, instead of observing the breath or counting breath, since we are walking, it is better for us to take our attention to the walking. You can say, you can start labeling your walk. You can start saying right, right, right when the right is moving, left, left, left when the left is moving. That would be better than counting or observing the breath, because we will, to be mindful, we will have to bring our attention to the work that we are doing in that particular point in time. I'm sure you are breathing, but what we actually do is trying to bring our attention to the lower part of the body, walking. So therefore, start labeling walking, and that will not confuse the mind as to where the mindfulness should take place.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.